Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. Today we are going to take a look at the second four-player game of the group, and in the last video you saw the first one of those four-player games, and that was very close between me and Wawrzyniec at the end. At the end I got the luckier ending and managed to finish at the second position. Wawrzyniec finished in the third position, and now we are going to take a look at the second one of the four-player games, and without further ado we are going to take a look at the leaders and wonders first. And as you can see, there is some lab synergy in the game with Bill Gates, Steve Jobs and Einstein, as well as the Manhattan Project, spaceflight and the internet. There is also Marlene Dietrich, Chaplin, Fleming and the Hollywood, so definitely it could be possible to go for some theaters and a big Hollywood at the end if there's not too much military pressure. Then we also have Mandela and the Red Cross. In H2 we have the ocean liner service, which is always very important to look for, and also together with Maria Theresa, which is a nice combination. We have no Suez Canal, but Harvard College is there as a strong economical wonder. Then we have James Watt, but no railroad. We have Nobel and Newton as two science leaders, James Cook, but as said, no Suez Canal. Two military action leaders with Napoleon and Catherine. One military action leader in H1 with Jan Žižka, Genghis Khan, Nostradamus, Barbarossa can all help with the strength. Michelangelo is there, but there's neither Machu Picchu nor St. Peter's Basilica, but some other interesting wonders potentially. Columbus is there as well, and also Gutenberg. Then I'm in the first position, and I think here it's relatively clear that I maybe should take Hammurabi. Not completely clear, because there is at least a potential that maybe things could get a bit dangerous, because as you can see there are Sun Tzu and Caesar coming down the road. There's a Colossus that could be taken, and there could definitely be some early military pressure going on. But so I could think about just taking the Engineering Genius or just taking Alex, but then ST would get Engineering Genius and Hammurabi, and I think that would just be way too strong. But I could maybe just take the Engineering Genius, then it likely Hammurabi and Alex would be taken, and the leaders that are available for me in one civil action could maybe just be Sun Tzu, and maybe the Colossus would be taken away. Then I would have to play Sun Tzu against the Colossus, which is maybe not that great, and also the leaders that could come out of the deck. Boudica could maybe be interesting, Aristotle, but I likely would have to grab them for two civil actions. I just think that would be very unpleasant, and so I took Hammurabi, even though there is the potential that maybe things could get a little bit dangerous. Then ST will go for Alex and Engineering Genius. I think that is a very logical pick, taking the Engineering Genius plus the leader that is available together with it. And Wawrzyniec makes the decision to go for the Colossus. With that he is prepared if one of his opponents goes for Sun Tzu or Caesar, but maybe he also has the chance to go for Caesar at his next turn, and then maybe can go for a little bit of pressure in the early game. Sadly there's no Suez Canal, which makes the Colossus even stronger. Then LC will take a wonder, the Acropolis, together with the cultural heritage. Now it is my turn. The two wonders that come out of the deck are the Rome roads and the Colosseum. Both of them are on 3 civil actions. I'm definitely not willing to pay that many civil actions for one of those wonders, especially because there are some interesting ones from H1 that I also could be getting if those could be revealed early. So not committing to a wonder always has also the advantage of maybe getting lucky and getting an early H1 wonder. And then I will build a mine, increase my population, definitely take the urban growth that I can nicely use to build a second lab. And then the question is, do I want to take a second yellow card, or do I maybe just favor one additional draw? There's definitely the chance that Wawrzyniec maybe could go for Caesar, and then maybe getting an additional draw, increasing my chances to get a tactic or a colonization card could maybe be quite nice. Also, not taking yellow card could have some consequences on how the card row will move if I now take no yellow card, and then ST maybe goes for the Rome road, so 2 civil actions, which would be a bit costly, but maybe he is willing to do it. Or maybe he just takes the rich land that is available, even though the frugality might be better for him. But if he doesn't take any cards from the row and I don't take any yellow cards, then Aristotle and Boudica stay both in 2 civil actions for Wawrzyniec, and even if ST takes the frugality, then Boudica stays in 2 civil actions, and Boudica is quite a strong leader, even though Wawrzyniec can go for Caesar. Maybe if Boudica is available, that could be stronger for him, so maybe with not taking a yellow card I could also make it that Wawrzyniec gets a little bit of a less strong leader. On the other hand, while it is maybe a little bit less strong for him, potentially, depending on how much he values the different leaders, and I think Wawrzyniec is definitely a player who is not afraid of going for Caesar and putting some military pressure early on into the game on the other players. So And with me going for Hammurabi, maybe I, even though Boudica would be strong for Wawrzyniec, would maybe favor it actually if he goes for her, because that would mean that there's no Caesar in the game. And so I at the end come to the conclusion that it shouldn't be a reason for me to not take a yellow card. And also I at the end thought that I can maybe just take the patriotism. I miss out on one draw now, but it gives me the possibility to maybe invest one more military action at a later turn. And I could of course also take the Ridgeland, but I already have built my mine. Who knows if I will have a nice chance to go for iron or irrigation, especially if there's some military pressure, and then the patriotism could just be the more valuable card. Then I draw one card, and I was very happy to see that I actually draw a medieval army tactic. That's definitely a lucky draw. Now I just need to get knights, and even if there's some military pressure, I have a very efficient way to defend myself. SD goes for Alex. As you can see, he's not willing to take the Rome roads for an additional civil action, meaning that I maybe have the chance to take that at my next turn. Wawrzyniec then has no interesting options. Will he go for Boudica? Will he go for maybe Caesar or Sansu? Increase his population, builds the third mine, and then he will indeed go for Caesar. So he wants to put some pressure on the other players, wants to make use of the Colossus that he has, and definitely means that I have to be a bit careful with having Hammurabi. Then Lc goes for the third mine as well, increases population. He just makes the decision to skip the HA leaders, goes for Nostradamus directly. Interestingly, he's not electing him, could have elected him instead of increasing his population, but with the Acropolis it's definitely more painful to miss out on the development of religion. On the other hand, getting the full knowledge about the next event deck with Nostradamus is definitely something that I often very much like to have, so I think maybe I would have elected Nostradamus, but then of course the development of religion could be revealed, and that could be quite annoying with the Acropolis. I think it makes sense to go for Nostradamus, because that is a very helpful leader for Lc to help against Caesar, and so I think it makes sense to go for him. Now it's my turn. I will build a second lab. There's no early H1 wonders, so with that I will just go for the Rome roads. Of course the Colosseum could definitely be a viable option in this situation, as the happy face might give me some help and a military action against military pressure. So I think in this situation the Colosseum, it was actually a close decision, even though generally I definitely like the Rome roads more. But as you can see, even in this situation I still went for the Rome roads at the end. And one of the reasons why I was willing to do this is because I will actually go for the warfare in addition to the Rome roads, and then I have a way to get one additional strength in the military action from there, and I just wanted to have the economical value from the Rome roads. I think that is just very nice to have in a 4-player game, and also with the turn that I will be doing, I maybe even have the chance, or maybe with the help of developments as well, to finish the Rome roads already the next turn. And I definitely will take the warfare, because I think I have to do something to prepare myself. I can't just ignore Wawrzyniec with having the Colossus, and I could just take the Swordsman as well, but with having the medieval army tactic I didn't want to go for the Swordsman, and instead just went for the warfare. It definitely could be an alternative to go for the Colosseum. It's a solid wonder, but I just still like the Rome roads more here. And then with my last civil action I could increase my population, but I at the end made a decision to go for the stockpile. One reason is that now, even with no developments revealed, if there are no interesting cards in the road the next turn, I could just play the stockpile, finish the Rome roads, and that could be a very fine turn. And also, if I go into consumption, I really don't have a lot of population, especially if I can't finish the Rome roads at the next turn, and then I again stay out of consumption even longer. And I think having a lot of population can also be quite important against the military push. And so at the end I was willing to take the stockpile, which is not the ideal card to take, of course, especially with having Rome roads, which costs 4 civil actions, but I have Hammurabi, and so I think it's fine to take the stockpile here. Then it's ST's turn. I actually draw a second tactic, and he will see it, opens the development of markets, and will go for the second lab. And then interestingly takes Žižka for 3 civil actions. He wants to have a replacement for Alex, and of course Žižka can also be very helpful against the strength, or against the potential strength push from Wawrzyniec. He misses out in the Colosseum for that, but there are some interesting H1 wonders. I think that can be very fine. I think it's costly to take Jan Žižka for that much, but maybe they are not the most interesting alternatives, and it's definitely nice to get an early replacement for Alex. Then Wawrzyniec also starts seeding. He opens the development of planning. The options for that are development of science, settlement, or trade routes, so definitely some interesting options. And then he will seed again, opens the development of civil life, another interesting development. He will then finish the Colossus with the additional resource that he got from the developments, is now already at 4 strength, could potentially threaten a double aggression at the next turn, so I have to be careful. And no, the event deck is also already half flipped. Then Elsie will go for Nostradamus this turn, takes the monarchy, which is nice to have together with the Acropolis, and then also the rich land. Now it is my turn, and as you can see, I took the resource from development of markets, allowing me to finish the Rome roads, and from the development of belaying I just took the development of science, because I wanted to have as much science as possible, so that after investing into the warfare, I hopefully very quickly will also still be able to invest into other technologies. Sadly, now all of the developments are gone that can give additional science. I will use the development of civil life to develop the warfare. And sadly now I'm missing 1 science to go for knights at the next turn. If those might be available, that could be very important, because the event deck might already be flipped by then. I definitely want to develop the warfare, because otherwise there is the danger of a double aggression, and like this I'm safe from that. And yeah, so at the end I just finished the Rome roads. I don't think I want to take iron here, because I am very low on science anyway with investing into the warfare, and it might be more important to invest into knights next, and then the iron will be delayed by quite a lot anyway, so I think there's no point in taking it here for 2 civil actions. And instead I just finish the Rome roads, get some production going, and with my last civil action I will just increase my population. Of course I could take a yellow card from here, maybe the frugality, but in this case I can increase my population without getting into consumption. Now there have already been quite a lot of developments revealed, especially with the development of planning with no development of warfare or religion, meaning now the chances are a lot more likely that those events might be revealed, so I think it's very clear that I have to increase my population here as my last civil action. I do draw 2 cards, the Foray and the Uncertain Borders, so 2 strength events. It's maybe nice to know that those aren't in the deck. ST will go for Shishka, increases his population. Builds a warrior, reveals the fighting band tactic, goes up to 4 strength, and then he will go for the iron. He doesn't have an HA wonder, so for him having the iron might be quite important, so that he just has something that he can invest his resources into. Wawrzyniec seeds and opens the development of warfare. He has a lot of free population, so he can go for 1 free warrior, and thanks to development of warfare he can even build another warrior and reveal the legion tactic, going up to 8 strength, and now definitely putting some pressure on all of the players. But he has delayed his lab so far, can't increase his population at the next turn unless he gets help from the development, so the strength push at least comes a bit at a cost of the economical development for him. LC seeds and also can take the development of warfare, finishes the Acropolis, and then it takes the irrigation, and the event revealed by him was the development of craft, so even more resource available for everyone. Now it is my turn, and as you can see I actually seed a Foray into the deck, which is maybe interesting. At my turn I will go up to 6 strength, and I will do this with going for Swordsman, which is definitely not ideal with having those knights tactic around, but it's just the only way that I can use to really make sure that I can defend myself against potential aggressions from Wawrzyniec, so that is one big reason to go for it. And at least one good knowledge is that Genghis Khan is in the deck, so even with going for the Swordsman maybe I can still make use out of my tactics, and also the Legion tactic has been revealed, so even if I don't go for Genghis Khan there is a tactic that I can use, and so I will go for the Swordsman going up to 6 strength, and depending on, of course, on what the last development will be, but I think maybe we can see what the remaining ones are. Agriculture, religion, or politics. Agriculture could be a bit tricky, then my play could maybe backfire a little bit, because if agriculture isn't revealed, then ST has only 1 population available for the military. I will take the Swordsman away, meaning he can't easily go for more than 5 strength. He can basically only build 1 warrior, maybe go for the cartography going up to 6 strength, but it would still be enough for me to be one of the 2 strongest after his turn. And then maybe Wawrzyniec will seed, maybe even double seed. And also LC has Nostradamus, but of course his strength doesn't help for the Foray. He also doesn't have a lot of population if there's no development of agriculture revealed, but also with it being revealed he can't easily fight for the Foray, so I thought, even though it felt counterintuitive with playing Hammurabi, that the Foray maybe I have decent chances to win it, especially if it is revealed quickly. And so at the end, and also maybe if it isn't revealed quickly, if I go for maybe Genghis Khan or something, and so at the end I was willing to cede it, and I was happy to see that there's no development of agriculture, instead the development of politics. And what you can see interestingly is that there are a lot of strength events in my hand, giving me a lot of knowledge of that those events are not in the deck, which is definitely good to know. So I maybe don't have to be too much concerned about the military, only of course for the fray that I just have seeded into the deck. Then I will go for the swordsman. I can take the free warrior, develop the swordsman, play the stockpile. That gives me now just enough food to increase my population 2 times. So you can see that the 1 additional food from the stockpile definitely can potentially make quite a difference. And then I can go for building 1 swordsman, upgrading 1, going up to 6 strength. I am potentially in danger of a double aggression from Wawrzyniec, but I only would need 1 colonization card in order to defend, and there was just a development of politics revealed. So I think hopefully there won't be a double aggression. Also, Wawrzyniec need to have 2 aggressions in order to execute this, so I was hoping that I am not in trouble. Then it's ST's turn, and he will just go for the iron, takes the free warrior. Then he can't really invest a lot more into the military, so he will stay at 5 strength, being the weakest, but will have now fully upgraded iron mines. Now it's Wawrzyniec's turn, and he will see it. The event revealed is the pestilence, and that could be annoying for quite a lot of players. Then he will also offer a pact, a trade routes agreement, which will get rejected. As you can see, Wawrzyniec has to destroy a mine. He has not enough food to increase his population, and he had some issues with an uprising if he wouldn't have destroyed the mine. And then for Lc, again, also he will have some uprising issues unless he gets help from the event deck. And for me, it's the same. I also will have an uprising issue, and actually also for ST. So all of the players are really suffering from this pestilence, and it might really slow down the economical development from all players. Wawrzyniec will go for an upgrade to alchemy, takes the reserves, stays in 2 mines for now, but at least increases his science production, and with the frugality he should relatively quickly get some new population going. And I was very happy to see that my little foray gamble paid off, and I get 3 additional food and all resources, which definitely will be very helpful for me, especially to be able to increase my population, because Lc now has to disband his warrior, will actually build a religion, which is interesting. Could be a small indicator that there's maybe a rebellion coming, but probably not, because it first of all gets him out of corruption, and it also saves him on science when developing the monarchy, so it's probably just because of those reasons, but maybe there's a small chance that there's a rebellion coming, and that it also is a move to be prepared for that, but maybe you wouldn't have seeded then, so yeah. Now it is my turn, and thanks to the foray I can take 2 food, which is very nice, and that allows me to increase my population. So I have lost my population, but I don't have to disband anything, which is very nice for me. And yeah. Then for my turn, I could maybe already take Genghis Khan this turn, but I was not really willing to invest 2 civil actions into him. There are still some other leaders that I could potentially go for. I could maybe be fine with going for the Legion tactic as well. Maybe just going for Columbus at the next turn, and then hoping that I might draw a colony at some point in Age 2. That definitely can be a gamble that is worth it. And also, instead of Genghis Khan, I wanted to go for the Silk Road, and I also thought that it is maybe not that likely that Genghis Khan will be taken away. The Colossus is a very nice synergy with Columbus, so I thought that Wawrzyniec rather might want to go for Columbus, and I really would like to have the Silk Road here, because getting a little bit of additional science production might be very helpful for me, might help me a lot to get into a government form at some point, and also makes nice use out of the additional civil actions from Hammurabi. And I think with having Rome Roads and Silk Road is just a very nice basis to have, because both of those wonders are economically nice, but also provide some culture. The Silk Road now in Age 3 I will just produce 4 culture from my 2 wonders that I have now. That definitely can maybe give me a bit of an advantage, so I really wanted to get the Silk Road going, and maybe I can even use it nicely together with the Patriotism A. But now the question is what to do with my last 2 civil actions that I have with Hammurabi, and I at the end made a decision to build a religion. While building the religion from Lc definitely doesn't necessarily have to do anything with the rebellion. There's still a chance that maybe it could be, and so I just wanted to build this religion, first of all, because it gets me out of corruption. There isn't really an easy other way to get me out of corruption, and also because it might prevent me from a potential rebellion. And then I have one civil action left, and I just wanted to build one step of the Silk Road. Of course, I could maybe take some cards, take even a masonry, but I think at the moment I'm too low on science and a masonry. Maybe it's just too big of an investment for science investment here, and could really delay my government form later on. So I rather wanted to skip the masonry. Instead, I wanted to build a Silk Road, step of the Silk Road, because that allows me to, if Genghis Khan is available the next turn, just take Genghis Khan, maybe elect him already, and then finish the Silk Road. And then that I think would be a very solid turn. Now with the fray out and with me knowing that there are a lot of strength events not in the deck, I also didn't bother with upgrading a warrior, because maybe there's the chance that I can use the Patriotism A to do this. Also I draw the Open Borders Agreement, which could be nice. ST Seeds, the Dark Ages are actually revealed, but as you can see, no player loses any science, so yeah, all of the players are already quite low in science. ST, because of the Pestilence, also has to disband a warrior, will also build a religion, maybe being a little bit alarmed by both LC and me building one, and so he also builds one himself. And then also goes for an upgrade to irrigation to get maybe regain those population, or the population that was lost to the Pestilence. Wawrzyniec again will open the Naval Trade Agreement, this time to ST, and it will be accepted. ST will get an additional colonization force, which is interesting. Maybe he has seeded a colony himself, or maybe he's just hoping for some to come, and Wawrzyniec will have 2 additional blue tokens available. Wawrzyniec then will increase his population, but before he builds his third mine, he will go with the second alchemy, going up to 4 science production. I think it could be important for him to get the science production going, so that he can at some point relatively easily go into a government form. And then, as expected, he doesn't go for Genghis Khan, instead for Columbus. And that could be very nice for him if he maybe gets lucky with the Colossus draw. Or maybe he also has already a territory in hand, like vast territory, and then LC Seeds, and there is actually a colony revealed, so ST immediately potentially getting a benefits out of the colonization force, but he's not really bidding that much. I was actually willing to bid a swordsman and a colonization card, but at the end, Wawrzyniec is able to win it, and it's also not too bad, because winning it could have been also a little bit of a distraction, but the happy face could, in long term, definitely also be nice to have, so I was willing to bid for it, but I also was not too unhappy with Wawrzyniec being able to win it, and at least having to send 2 colonization cards away. LC this turn will go for some upgrades to alchemy, getting some science production going, and then takes the breakthrough, doesn't even take the iron, can't go for it at the next turn, that might be relatively late anyway. Now it's my turn, and as you can see, I actually seed the Call to Arms into the deck instead of offering the Open Borders Agreement, which would give me an additional draw immediately. Yeah, but at the end I came to the conclusion that I really want to have the Call to Arms in the next deck, and if I don't see it now, the event deck might be flipped before my next turn. Why do I want to have it in the next deck? First of all, I, with going for Genghis Khan, should hopefully be relatively nicely able to avoid being one of the 2 weakest. And then when we take a look at ST, or at all of my opponent's civilization, ST has 4 civil actions, is low in science. Wawrzyniec has 4 civil actions, at least isn't low in science, so maybe can fix it at some point. And LC also is at least at 5 civil actions, but doesn't have that many, so I think losing civil actions in this situation is definitely more painful for them maybe than usual, and also, especially for ST with being in lower science, getting into government form with a revolution could be an idea for him, and then there's also the chance that a Call to Arms might potentially disrupt him from doing that, or maybe also Wawrzyniec if he wants to go for a revolution. So I think the Call to Arms in this situation could really do some damage to my opponents, and because of that I wanted to seed it, and then maybe planned on offering the Open Borders Agreement at the next turn. The event revealed is the cultural influence, which gives ST the most culture. At my turn I will grab Genghis Khan. I don't have a lot of food for Barbarossa, and Gutenberg and Michelangelo are maybe also not ideal for me in this situation, so I just go for Genghis Khan, who helps me a bit with the strength, and will also produce me a little bit of culture together with the culture from the Silk Road. Maybe means that I can maybe generate a little bit of a lead, or maybe not fall too much behind a player like LC or ST, who have already some additional culture production. So I will take him. And then basically the only way to get out of corruption for me is to finish the Silk Road. If I do this, then it would mean that I miss out on the iron that I have now the chance to take for 1 civil action. If I don't take it, that means that it will be discarded in ST's turn, meaning there is only 1 more copy left, which very likely then will be taken by one of my opponents, meaning then there would be 2 players waiting for coal, which could be a bit problematic. But just the turn with going for the iron just felt a bit ugly. Either I miss out on Genghis Khan, but I think it is very nice for me to have him. Especially now that I can take him for 1 civil action. I can still elect him once I have Hammurabi. as long as I still have Hammurabi, so that is nice. And if I want to go for Genghis Khan and the iron, then I will just have corruption. At the moment I'm low in science anyway, and I just thought it can maybe be fine to wait for the coal. There is also James Watt in the game, which is an argument to wait for the coal. And I can maybe do some other stuff with my resources that I have after finishing the Silk Road, which I will do this turn. There are some wonders coming down the road that I could go for. Also the Great Wall could be very interesting with having Genghis Khan. So I think it's not as necessary to take the iron here. Instead I just take Genghis Khan, and the question was, do I want to elect him already this turn or not? But I thought with me maybe planning to go for a wonder the next turn, it could be quite nice to still have the additional civil action from Hammurabi. Of course I don't get the additional strength from Genghis Khan and the additional culture, which could be also worth more potentially than the civil action, but with me maybe planning to go for a wonder like Universitas, Forbidden City, or maybe Great Wall, I thought that maybe I want to keep Hammurabi for one more turn, because it should be very likely that the age doesn't end before my next turn with my opponents being on low civil actions. I discard the medieval army tactic. I thought about maybe revealing a tactic already or keeping it in hand, but at the moment it doesn't really look like that I can easily go for 4th unit, and I was also very happy to see that I draw the heavy cavalry, which is very nice for me, so now I have the perfect tactic anyway for Genghis Khan, which is of course very nice. ST increases his population, goes for one more food upgrade, and then he will go for the Forbidden City, maybe giving him the chance to still use the Engineering Genius A at the next turn that he didn't find a chance to use that before. I think the H1 wonders were all relatively late, apart from the Silk Road that I've taken away, so he wants to go for that wonder now, and getting the additional civil action might also be very nice for him. Wawrzyniec seeds, and the event revealed are the reds, so again some food lost after the pestilence, so the players are all a little bit limited with the population. Wawrzyniec also wants to increase the civil actions, goes for the Code of Laws, builds the 3rd mine again, finally rebuilds it after having lost it to the pestilence basically, and then he will build a warrior going up to 8 or 7 strength, will use the military action from Caesar before switching, takes the breakthrough, and then the next turn he is of course really hoping for a jackpot draw from the Colossus, that with having Columbus. Elsie will go for the irrigation this turn, could have also gone for the iron, but I think it's the right decision to go for the irrigation here. Reds are out now, and he's very low in population, and I think being able to increase his population at the next turn and being able to build a unit might be very important for him. Also, he reveals the fighting band tactic now, with still being on with only missing out on H1 draws. Now it is my turn. As you can see, there is indeed the Universitas, but there's also the Great Wall coming down the road, and that basically was the big thing that I debated about at my next turn. Which of those two wonders do I want to go for? The Great Wall could be very interesting, really putting some pressure on my opponents together with Genghis Khan and the heavy cavalry. At some point maybe I will have again enough food accumulated that I can increase my population, build another swordsman, and then really be quite threatening. And the Universitas just gives me some very nice economical value, might make it a lot easier to invest into a government form and into coal relatively quickly. So that was the interesting question at my turn. First of all, I will offer the Open Borders Agreement. I offered it to Elsie. I don't want to offer it to Wawrzyniec, because I think for him the additional military action would be very nice to keep more cards in hand from Colossus. For Elsie, of course, it's also nice with having Nostradamus to have more military actions and more draws thanks to that. But I was a little bit afraid that with SD not being able to increase his population, and if I go for Genghis Khan now, he could be a little bit threatened and maybe cancel the pact again, while Elsie at his turn has enough food to increase his population, can maybe just build a knight, and hopefully with that and also with the military action being very nice for him with having Nostradamus, hopefully won't cancel the pact, so I at the end offered it to Elsie. And also, as you can see, I at the end made the decision for the Universitas. One of the reasons is that I know that actually there are really not a lot of strength events apart from the call to arms that I've seeded into the deck. And I have the border conflict in hand that I maybe can seed at some point. But there are just not a lot of strength events coming in. Don't have an aggression in hand. And also the Great Wall would cost me an additional civil action to take and to build, which is definitely makes a difference, because now that I take the Universitas, I can build one step and with Hammurabi also take the Rich Land, which could be very helpful to go for coal upgrades. If I want to go for the Great Wall, I could also take the Rich Land and then get out of corruption with upgrading one warrior to swordsman, which could be fine. But then with only being on 4 civil actions, I would need my whole next turn to finish the Great Wall if I want to do this, which definitely could be nice. And with having already built one step of the the Universitas, I just can maybe react and also take some very early H2 cards potentially, and also the economic value is just very nice, and then maybe a bit more something more certain that I get than what I get from the Great Wall. But having the Great Wall also, especially in 4-player games, can have quite a lot of potential, so I definitely really thought about it here. And with having all of those wonders, I thought it could definitely put me in a nice position, just having some passive production that doesn't require any workers. And also, as I said earlier, when I'm in H3 now with also having the Universitas, I will just be producing 5 culture every turn just from my wonders, and those will give me some nice economical benefits. I can maybe build some economy from H2 on top of that, and I thought it definitely has some potential if the things go right for me. Then, as said, I will first of all go for Genghis Khan, reveal the heavy cavalry tactic going up to 10 strength, build 1 step of the Universitas, take the rich land, and I also upgrade this warrior to swordsman because now I can do it with using H1 military actions. I mean, I have 4 now thanks to the open borders agreements. I could do it at the next turn and don't miss out on any draw maybe. But I also thought maybe it's a little bit more threatening if I'm at 11 strength. So the players have to be maybe a little bit more afraid of an aggression. And so at the end I made a decision to upgrade this warrior just already now. And I actually do draw an aggression, so if one of the players is maybe leaving himself a little bit vulnerable, I could maybe punish it potentially. SD this turn will finish the Forbidden City. One reason why taking the rich land was also nice is that the age ended, meaning that ST lost his engineering genius. So when I went for the Great Wall and then thought about not taking the rich land, it also felt a little bit bad because I just would give 2 additional resources for ST. We are on a 4-player game, so I shouldn't put too much focus on that, but it's definitely part. Makes taking the rich land even a little bit stronger, so I really wanted to have this, and then it's just a lot easier to afford with going for the Universitas for 1 civil action cheaper. ST this turn can still finish the Forbidden City, has enough resource saved up, and then will just take the urban growth with his last civil action. Wawrzyniec goes for a colony. He had a jackpot draw, not from H2, but probably the best colony from H1, so that's also nice for him, gives him some additional population, and now he will go for the Great Wall. I thought that could be a disadvantage when I don't go for the Great Wall, that it might be nice for Wawrzyniec, but as said, there are no strength events coming apart from the call to arms, or maybe something like Raiders I think could still be in there, or Crusades, but the important strength events are not in there, and so I was not too concerned about giving this to Wawrzyniec. Now it's Lc's turn. He will go for Code of Laws, develops it, increases population, builds a warrior, and then takes the efficient upgrade. And then it is my turn, and at my turn I have to think about, do I want to play the border conflict into the deck, or do I want to go for the enslaved? The border conflict giving me some safe 1 culture that I can get, maybe the chance to hit a call to arms, which could definitely be annoying for my opponents potentially. So and if I go for an aggression, the best target is probably ST. LC has the open borders agreement with me, but for him 2 H1 colonization cards would be enough, and also 1 H2 colonization card from his draw. For ST he would need 3 H1 colonization cards, and from his colony bit earlier on, maybe he just wanted to keep all of the colonization cards, but it didn't really look like he has a lot of them, so I thought maybe it's not that likely that he has 3 H1 colonization cards, and then it's possible, of course, that he draws an H2 colonization card, but it's more likely that he doesn't, and I only miss out on 1 draw, which is definitely a little bit costly, but I think the reward that I can be getting here is just definitely worth it, that I will try the aggression and also the border conflict. It will take a long time until it will be revealed. Maybe at this point I have already lost Genghis Khan, so I don't really know if I'm actually in a good position to win it, especially now that I don't have gone for the Great Wall, and with that I think it's the correct decision to try the aggression here against ST. And I actually do get lucky and do get the 2 additional resources and 2 food, and ST will lose from population at his turn. I can finish the Universitas, that gets me out of corruption, puts me at 6 science production right now. From the next turn on I will be prepared to go for an H2 government form, which will be very nice, and hopefully I will get one very quickly. I was hoping that maybe I have better chances than my opponents to get one, because LC, the 1 player with monarchy, is playing right in front of me, and the question now is, how do I want to spend my last 2 civil actions? I could just increase my population, leaving me with 1 civil action left. Then I could either take the theology to have a happy face solution, or maybe one of the copies of knights just to have a cavalry technology in hand. And the only real alternative, I think, would be to maybe take the organized religion. Of course, I could also go for the monarchy before I finish the universitas, but I think at this late point, and with the monarchy being on 2 civil elections, it makes a lot more sense, also with having the warfare and with that being prepared for Republic and Conmon, to just wait for an H2 government form. But I could take the organized religion, definitely a better happy face solution than the theology, and so that could maybe be interesting. Also, when I increase my population, there is the chance that a rebellion could be in the deck that I could get hit by, and at this point the players have somewhat fixed their happy faces, and with the potential threat of rebellion, and with me getting a better happy face solution, I at the end made the decision to go for the organized religion, just making sure that I have a happy face solution in hand. It's those awesome actions that I have to spend at some point anyway, and I miss out on the knights, so if I miss out on the cavalry technologies as well, it could be a little bit dangerous, but it is a risk that I'm willing to take, because for now my military is in good shape, and maybe at the end I would prefer to have cavalrymen anyway, but it's a little bit of a risk, of course, to not take the knights here. Then I draw the Ravages of Time and the Acceptance of Supremacy. SD at his turn will offer the international trade agreement to Wawrzyniec, so sadly, again, both of them having this pact very early. Wawrzyniec will get some additional resource production, and SD will go for additional food production. He will go for the rifleman, has just enough science to invest into it, and with that will make sure that he isn't the weakest any longer, and also not longer in danger of any aggression. Then Wawrzyniec will seed, and the event revealed is the scientific breakthrough, giving me even more science, and also, as you maybe remember, the Dark Ages have been revealed, so I don't have to be in any way concerned that I will lose all of those science with the Dark Ages. Wawrzyniec then this turn will finish the Great Wall, making him one of the 2 strongest now, and then also takes the cannons, which is of course very nice to have with having the Great Wall. Lc at his turn will go for the Amici Castle, maybe just helping him to defend a little bit. Also takes a copy of Organized Religion, and then he doesn't want to wait for the coal. Will start now with going for some iron mines, can maybe complete his upgrades at the next turn, or maybe go for 1 upgrade and finish the Amici Castle. And now it is my turn. The question is, do I want to seed? And as you can see, I actually decide against seeding. Just because I don't really know how nice those events will be. Of course, I could just push, but I first of all know that there isn't really any event in there that rewards being the strongest. I could maybe reveal the call to arms now, that might be fine, but hopefully I will stay one of the 2 strongest for a little bit longer, and then at the time the border conflict will be revealed. I just don't know if I have good chances to win it. Wawrzyniec with the Great Wall probably has a lot better chances, and maybe when I lose Genghis Khan I might even have there's the danger that I will lose it, and the Ravages of Time is also not really an event that I want to seed, having Rome Road, Silk Road, and Universitas, and Wawrzyniec, for example, having the Colossus. I mean, for ST it would be very costly to lose the Forbidden City, but maybe for LC it also wouldn't be too bad to lose the Acropolis, so I at the end didn't want to push and just went for the Republic. I was very happy that I have the chance to get the Republic here. That gives me a big boost, and generally with getting the Republic now, was quite happy about the position that I have at the moment. Then after going for the Republic, I have 3 civil actions left. Increasing my population is not enough to get me out of corruption, and so at the end I made a decision to just invest into the organized religion right now. That gets me out of corruption. I don't really need the happy faces that much, but if I increase my population, I would have 1 unhappy worker, which could get punished by the rebellion, and it's just at some point I have to spend those actions anyway, and if I don't have the opportunity now to invest into something like coal immediately, then it's at least nice to have those civil actions out of the way, so that later on when maybe a coal or other things are available for me to upgrade it, I can just focus completely on it without having to be concerned about a happy face solution. And then after doing this, I have 1 civil action left. Of course, I could increase my population, but especially with the Silk Road and with being low production, I really rather wanted to have one of those yellow cards instead. I could go for the urban growth, but I think I have my happy face solution now. I don't really need scientific methods with the current amount of science production that I have. So with that, I think just having the flexibility of the reserves and having those resources either for the military or to go for farm or mine upgrades is probably better. And I was very happy about my draw, making me even more confident about my position. I have not a defensive army tactic. If I get a copy of cannon, I think I'm definitely looking very good at this point. ST will go for more upgrades from warriors to riflemen, or at least 1 upgrade takes the urban growth, the efficient upgrade, and also Newton. As soon as he gets either journalism or scientific method, Newton can give him a very nice science boost. Then Wawrzyniec will develop the swordsman, maybe wants to get stronger, will build one going up to 13 strength, and then takes the reserves and also the coal. As we saw earlier when the iron was discarded, there are 2 players without the iron, and Wawrzyniec is one of them taking the first copy of coal, which of course could mean that the second one could be a little bit late for me, or potentially even denied by one of the other opponents. Then LC will finish the Meiji Castle, increasing his strength, and then takes the Rifleman, the Patriotism, and the Journalism, interesting, is willing to miss out on this upgrade in order to take all of those cards. The Journalism, of course, could be very nice to have, maybe also, I mean, probably not to take it away from ST because the scientific method is coming down the row, but could just be a potentially nice card to have, maybe with being protected from the Meiji Castle, but it is a bit costly, I think, to not get those upgrades going. Now it is my turn. As you can see, this turn I will actually seed the border conflict into the deck. And this time, a little bit has changed. First of all, I have the defensive army tactic, no cannons yet. So of course it's a little bit of a gamble if I don't get cannons. I definitely could still be a little bit in trouble of not losing to it and probably not win it then. But I have the defensive army tactic. I will go for food upgrades this turn, leaving me with more population. And also I will actually switch to a new leader this turn, to Maria Theresa, and with her I will be weaker after my turn, meaning now I wouldn't lose to the call to arms, but after my turn I might lose a civil action, and I have already my tactic drawn, so the additional draws are maybe at this point are not that valuable for me. So with that I was willing to push the border conflict into the deck, and if I get the cannons with Maria Theresa and additional food production, then I might even have some chances to win it in the 3 additional resources, especially if the second copy of coal should be late, could be very important for me. The event revealed is not the call to arms, but instead the rebellion. We can see that it has worked out nicely for me to make sure that I don't have any unhappy workers. And then I said I will go for the selective breeding, using the rich land with the Silk Road bonus. And first I just thought maybe I can go for some upgrades, take the cavalryman, maybe the urban growth or something like this. Maybe even take the scientific method away from ST, but I don't think I would like to do this because I don't really need it, and the urban growth could be very important for me at some point. So I just thought about this, but then I realized Maria Theresa could actually be very nice here, because I can increase my population at least 2 times at the next turn, and then maybe once per turn at the following turns. And also, even if I don't get cannons already the next turn, I can maybe build another swordsman, and then if I should get cannons, still easily transition into the defensive army tactic. If I don't get cannons, I will take 1 copy of cavalryman, and then I can maybe at least go for phalanx tactics or something like this, maybe hoping that one of my opponents will reveal a nice tactic for that, or that I will draw one. And so I thought Maria Theresa will be nice here, especially because her additional resources also are very valuable for me, with having not increased resource production at this point. So I will take the cavalryman, I will go for Maria Theresa, copy to the legion tactic before switching to her to not fall behind too much in strength. And then with my last civil action I could increase my population, but with having Maria I think it makes a lot of sense to just go for the second upgrade. I have knowledge about both pestilence and rats, both of those events were revealed earlier, so I think it's very nice to just upgrade those. Now I could of course get hit by the call to arms, but apart from that there shouldn't be too bad strength events in the deck, so that's at least nice knowledge. And with that I thought it could be very interesting. If there's coal available at the next turn, I can also take it, play the reserves, go for an upgrade, and I can use the 3 additional resources from Maria to build a swordsman, or maybe even a cannon if those are available and I don't have anything else to do. I do draw the strategic territory in a colonization card. ST will go for Newton this turn. There is the scientific method available for him for 1 civil action, and that gives him a very big boost. He will go for 2 upgrades, is now at 8 science production, and that will help him a lot to get into a government form. He also will take a copy of cavalryman, and then upgrades or builds even an additional farm, putting him at a lot of food production. Then Wawrzyniec seeds and opens the Good Harvest, and I was very, very happy to see this. Maybe seeded by ST, who just has built an additional farm, so that's a big indicator on who maybe has seeded this event. But of course it's now also very nice for me, especially with Maria Theresa. I have now a lot of food saved up, can increase my population a lot of times, and really can get a lot of value out of her. Wawrzyniec will go for the cannons, interestingly. He could have gone for one upgrade to coal already this turn, but maybe wants to put a little bit of pressure on his opponents. Maybe he has either an aggression or maybe a war that he hopes to get going. There's also Napoleon still in the deck, or maybe Nobel coming down the row, who also can give some additional strength, maybe the strategy. So he, instead of going for the coal, is going for a little bit of pressure with the Great Wall that he has, and took also the Colossus, so he really went for some wonders that give him additional strength. Lc this turn will also invest into the military, goes for the Rifleman, goes for Nobel, and then takes the rich land. This turn upgrades this mine and also takes the architecture, and actually takes corruption this turn. And now it is my turn, and I don't really want to see it. I'm the weakest at the moment, and I don't really want to push the strategic territory into the deck, because additional draws for Wawrzyniec could be quite bad, especially if I get the cannons maybe the next turn, which I was hoping, because if those aren't revealed in ST's turn, and even if those are revealed, it's a bit costly for him to take them with having that much food saved up, and if he doesn't take it, or if those aren't available for him, then it's very likely that 2 remaining copies are maybe available for me in LC. So I was hoping that I get a tactic, and then, or that I will be able to go for the defensive army, but a disadvantage of that is, of course, that Wawrzyniec also has access to this tactic. He still went for the cannons, maybe he has something like fortifications, but the defensive army might be even better for him, so that's a little bit bad, and I don't want to make it a lot easier for him to get a lot of draws in H3 and then maybe make use out of the strength. Then this turn there are no cannons. I want to use the additional resource from Maria, so increase my population, build one swordsman for free. And as you can see, there is the second copy of coal available, so I definitely thought about just taking it, developing it, playing resources, and going for an upgrade. However, that would then be my whole turn. I would not be able to take any further yellow cards. I would not be able to take the architecture with me having that much science. It's a very nice card to have, also being able to save me a lot of resources. And I could just take the coal in hand, not going for an upgrade, but at the end I thought it's not really necessary to take the coal for 3. First of all, it's relatively late. And I definitely have some ways how I can maybe afford, if one of my opponents should for some reason deny the coal, then I have Maria Theresa for additional resources, I have the architecture for additional resources, there could be early oil, there could be a leader like Bill Gates if I maybe get computers, or still the second copy of scientific method. So I just thought, even if I miss out on the coal, I still have a solid, very solid position, and I think without going for the coal, I will this turn go for the architecture, go for the wave of nationalism, which together with the Silk Road can maybe give me 7 additional resources at the next turn. So I just thought it's not really worth it to take the coal for 3 here, and hopefully I will still have the chance to go for it at the next turn. So I will increase my population one more time to get out of corruption, take the architecture, take the wave of nationalism, increase my population again. I could just increase my population another time, but at the end I made a decision to actually take the frugality. If I maybe can use it with the Silk Road bonus, that basically almost gives me an additional population, and especially with having Maria Theresa, that is some very nice value. I have a decent amount of civil actions and was at the end willing to take this copy of frugality. Also, it makes it that the ocean liner service will be discarded before Wawrzyniec's turn, but it's not a big reason, because very likely it could be taken. No, maybe it's not taken by ST, but for Wawrzyniec it would be quite costly at this point, so it's a small reason, but not really the very important one. And then at the next turn I can, if the cannons are available, reveal the tactic, making me the weakest, play the wave, and together with the additional resource from Maria, build 2 cannons completely for free. And if the coal is falling down the row a little bit more, then there is even a chance that I can go for both cannons and coal if the cards are at a nice position for me at the row. Basically, coal has to be on 1, which is likely, and cannons have to be on 2, which is maybe not that likely, but it's possible. Then I could even go for 2 cannons and 1 coal upgrade. Which is also another reason why I went for the frugality, making it more likely that those cards will fall down the row. Of course, it also makes it more likely that ST has access to the cannons, but it's still impossible that a copy will fall down to 2 civil actions for him, so it would be very costly for him to take with having that food saved up. Maybe he wouldn't take it anyway, and then it just increases my chances that I maybe can do a very nice turn with going for both cannons and coal at the next turn. I will draw the International Agreement, another colonization card, so maybe now I can think about putting the strategic territory into the deck. There are no cannons revealed, so hopefully I will have the chance to get them at my next turn, and instead the barbarians are revealed. and I have actually the most culture, but luckily I had just increased my strength and won't get hit by that. Definitely a nice timing for me. ST will just increase his population a bunch of times, develops the cavalryman, builds one, and then also takes the breakthrough. Has just not enough science to go for a government form at the next turn, which is a bit bad for him, but he also probably wants to make sure that he can defend against an aggression. And now there's actually a war from Wawrzyniec, so he didn't build this cannon for nothing. He has something in hand, something planned. He will now play the reserves for resources, go for the Conmon, giving him additional military action, but also go for Napoleon, increase his population, build one cannon, reveal the fortifications tactic, is now 28 strength and really pulling off a very big war over technology, which could be quite annoying for Elsie. At least he has the Magic Castle, but no. So having the wave here is also definitely quite important for my defense. If I would have gone for the coal upgrade, I would not have been able to threaten building 2 cannons, and then maybe I could have also been target of the war. So I think that taking the wave here was also actually important to make sure that I'm defended nicely. And that means that Wawrzyniec doesn't go for James Watt, which was definitely a leader where I thought maybe he would like to go for him. I think there's also still a copy of Selective Breeding left, but of course he now really puts some pressure on his opponents and can maybe get a lot of value out of Napoleon as well. And he has just enough resource to at least still be able to go for a coal upgrade at the next turn. Also, I was happy to see that both copies of cannons are available, making it that I am guaranteed to get one at the next turn. Elsie will also take one. It's a bit costly for him, of course, to take those. And then he will build one cannon, go for the last upgrade for free. And yeah, he can sacrifice, but it of course is also costly, and then he will get a lot of science stolen, so definitely bad for him. Then at my turn I definitely want to take the cannons, and also I don't want to be in danger of an aggression, and I have now the nice chance to use the Wave of Nationalism for 7 additional resources, so I will reveal the tactic, even though it's nice for Wawrzyniec, but he has the fortifications now, so he would also be somewhat fine without it, and so I play the Wave of Nationalism with 10 additional resources available for the military, build 2 cannons, I'm now at 27 strength. I really want to still have the coal. Maybe I could be completely fine without it, but I have a lot of science, and it could still be nice to maybe invest into one upgrade at the next turn, especially if I maybe should get some early efficient upgrades from H3. So I go for 1 copy of coal, and then the question is what else to do. I could, for example, take another yellow card or something, but I kind of wanted to get out of corruption. In order to do this, I have to increase my population without the frugality, and then also build another swordsman. Maybe I don't really need a swordsman at the moment, but it could definitely be nice to be even stronger. First of all, I have some aggressions in hand, and maybe the additional strength makes it even more likely that I can pull those aggressions off. And also I am now 1 strength ahead of Wawrzyniec, and it is next turn. If he maybe wants to go for the coal, then he can't increase his strength really, meaning that maybe I have a chance to win the border conflict that I have seeded into the deck. Now it is ST's turn. Of course, he also has to be a bit worried now about his strength. But as you can see, he probably finds a way to fix his strength, because he will actually also go for a war over technology against Elsie. He will go for the strategy, develops it, go for the team sports, develops it, the additional civil action from Newton, doing a very big job here. And then he will build 1 team sports, has now some happy faces, builds the cavalryman, reveals the classic army tactic, and goes up to 27 strength. So he is also really going for some strength, takes the Conmon. Taking that definitely shows that he maybe wants to go for a little bit of a military direction. He has 0 culture production, maybe he is falling a little bit behind in this area, especially behind me and Elsie, and he has no rifleman and cavalryman already. If he could draw some nice H3 tactics, then he definitely maybe has a chance to go for a big war at some point, and so instead of the Republic, which he then maybe had a chance to do a cheaper revolution if he wants to do one with Newton, and also more civil actions, instead he goes for Conmon, maybe leaving him more option for military options. Now it's Wawrzyniec's turn. He will first of all steal 8 science from Elsie, is not able to steal the Code of Laws because he has a copy of that already himself. Otherwise he would have been able to steal it, and he will go for a very early H3 leader for Einstein, and is also willing to take computers for 3 civil actions. Is not going for a coal upgrade this turn. He could still go for one, but instead he is investing into computers immediately, and also goes for 1 more upgrade, another upgrade, and then use the urban growth to upgrade to the computers. Makes him the strongest, and also increases science production immediately, leaves him still with enough resource to go for an upgrade to coal if he wants to do this, even though it's getting kinda late. Interestingly, he doesn't go for Einstein already this turn. He could have scored 3 culture with him and also 3 additional science already. So he's missing out on some value, but with Napoleon he stays the strongest. Maybe it's an aggression in hand that he can potentially pull off at the next turn, or is hoping to draw one, and also makes it that he keeps being the strongest. And with me going up to 29 strength, maybe he could be expecting a strength event, even though early on I was also not that afraid of being the weakest. Lc then this turn again has to defend against the wall, will copy the fortifications tactic, plays the patriotism, builds 1 cannon, takes the revolutionary idea and another copy of revolutionary idea. So he will lose again some science, but at least he then can get some science back with those revolutionary ideas. Will also draw 1 H3 card. Then it is my turn. I have to think about if I want to seed, if I want to go for an aggression, or if I don't want to do anything of this. There is even a small chance, in our case, for going for an aggression against ST, because he has only 1 card in hand. Who knows, if it is no colonization card, then even though we have only 2 strength difference, maybe I could get through with an aggression, but I came to the conclusion that my chances are just a lot higher against Lc, because while he could sacrifice, sacrificing would just cost him to lose even more in the war, and if he doesn't sacrifice, then he needs a lot of colonization cards, and also then is the chance to sacrifice in the war actually, which will save him a lot of culture, or a lot of science. So I thought if he doesn't the ability to defend without sacrificing, I have good chance that he won't choose to sacrifice, and so I made a decision to play the spy against him. And as you can see, the aggression is indeed successful, Lc losing 5 science. If he now decides to sacrifice, then ST would actually only steal 1 science from him, which then also would be nice for me, because it not only hit Lc, but basically then at this point would hit ST more. But of course Lc has to decide if he really wants to sacrifice. Losing a unit is also quite costly, so it will be interesting to see how he will choose, what he will choose to do at ST's turn, and if he wants to sacrifice. This turn I will play the frugality, getting 4 additional food out of it, and being able to increase my population with Maria again. I will again increase my population, being able to not have an uprising issue without necessarily having to invest into the organized religion, which gives me the option to go for coal instead if I want to. And also there is a leader on the road that could potentially be interesting, Mandela, so I definitely have to think about if I want to go for him. If I don't go for him, there are some other leaders that I maybe can go for at some point, Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, but the first copy of Computers is taken, so maybe those leaders are not too great for me at the end. Marlene is there and Chaplin, but I don't have any theaters at the moment, also Fleming, and with that, Mandela could maybe just be the best leader for me at the moment without having any of those buildings. And I think Mandela is also just very solid. Of course, I already am relatively deep into my yellow bank, but I think Mandela, even without having surplus happy faces, is a very, very solid leader for the additional civil action. Maria has done a very nice job giving me a lot of value, but now I maybe don't necessarily want to build a lot more units, at least short term, and I can't increase my population that often, so I think it is a nice point now to switch to Mandela, get even more civil actions, increase my culture production by 2. Now we can see how nice it is to have all of those wonders. I'm at 8 culture production, have already a little bit of a lead, especially against ST and Wawrzyniec. And I am that lead at the moment, at least will get bigger every turn, which is nice. Now I have 4 civil actions left, and I made a decision that I still want to go for a coal upgrade. Of course, it's relatively late, it's already in H3, but I have a lot of science, so I should easily be able to afford the 7 science spent into the coal, and then it will still pay off until the end of the game. Makes it a lot easier for me to maybe save up some resources, and if I, for example, get a sufficient upgrade at the next turn, maybe I can take it, go for another upgrade in 2 turns, or maybe play the reserves resource at the next turn, go for 1 more upgrade. So I think that's still worth it. And then for the last 2 civil actions, my main decision was between just taking reserves with not having the most resources, that could be a very valuable card to have, or to take this justice system, develop it, and take the frugality. Before I knew if my spy goes through or not, I just thought I maybe should go for the reserves instead, because I have a lot of science, even without a spy I would be at 19, but if I invest into the justice system, want to invest into the architecture, and then maybe also in the military theory, air forces, then out of the sudden I might not have that much science left, and also the first copy of Revolutionary Idea 3 is already taken away. But now that I have even more science, I just thought it even though I have a lot of civil actions, I can invest into the justice system. It will still be nice to have even more civil actions, hopefully allowing me to take a lot of cards, a lot of yellow cards also with the Silk Road, and so I made a decision to take the justice system, and then instead of the reserves I will take the frugality. There's a chance that maybe I would end up using the reserves for food anyway. Probably I would use it for resource, and those resources might be needed. But additional population also still will be helpful, and so I made a decision to go for the frugality. And yeah, important it's that I have the reserves with the Silk Road bonus giving me 9 resource, which is just enough to build 1 more swordsman and 1 more cannon, giving me a 3rd tactic. If that wouldn't be the case, then I think I have to take the reserves, because while maybe it's not too dangerously looking at the moment, it's still definitely possible Wawrzyniec could maybe do something if I don't prepare myself for that. So that's yeah, important that I have the Silk Road bonus here, allowing me to actually threaten a 3rd army. Then I will draw 2 cards. The mechanized army tactic maybe could be interesting, but at the moment I have a lot of swordsmen. ST will steal 1 science and a code of laws, so LC didn't sacrifice the rifleman, doesn't need them for the fortifications tactic, but yeah, maybe he wants to be able to defend against aggression, or maybe just wants to keep the additional strength from the unit. And then ST will go for 2 more upgrades from warriors to rifleman, get him out of corruption, making him the strongest, making it that I am one of the 2 weakest now, so I could get hit a little bit by the call to arms, but with having that many civil actions, an H1 draw could actually be very fine compensation for missing out on 1 civil action. And yeah, ST ends his turn, and if he draws something like Modern Army, he could definitely have a lot of strength potential, so I have to keep a little bit of an eye on that. Wawrzyniec will cede, and the call to arms is revealed, so I will lose now 1 civil action. The card that I have drawn is a war, which is nice to have. At the moment it's not really looking like I really want to go for a big war, but who knows, if I get military theory and air force, it's definitely nice to have. And Wawrzyniec's turn will copy the defensive army tactic, and then we'll also take the modern infantry in hand. We'll switch to Einstein this turn, goes for another upgrade, still doesn't go for the coal. At this point maybe it's just fine with staying on bronze mines, or I think he will take both of those copies of efficient upgrade, can maybe then go for some cheap upgrades the next turn if he still wants to, but with having that much science and Einstein, he will get a lot of culture out of Einstein, and for that he doesn't need any resources, and yeah, that could be nice, but at least he is quite a bit behind culture, and it's also a little bit dangerous for him. He doesn't have any reserves in hand. He has only 5 resources available for the military at the moment. At the moment he is the strongest still. Anyway, after he goes for this upgrade, but if ST maybe finds rockets, or maybe just goes for air forces with 2 classic armies, and Wawrzyniec doesn't get any copies of reserves or patriotisms, maybe it could get a bit dangerous for him with being that low in resources now. Now it's LC's turn. He has now down to 5 civil actions, definitely a disadvantage. And as you can see, he will actually reveal the positional army tactic. Maybe he has even drawn it with the call to arms. Maybe he has also already drawn it with his 1 draw after his turn, because that could of course be a big reason to not sacrifice the rifleman. But yeah, now he has the positional army tactic, and that of course helps him a lot to stabilize, especially because he can take the first copy of Air Force together with that test, thanks to the revolutionary idea, even enough to go for 1 at the next turn with that, at least to stabilize, but those 2 wars definitely have cost him a lot. He's now down to 5 civil actions, but he still has a bit of a cultural lead, so he's definitely still in the game, and no, at this point I was definitely quite happy about my position, as we can see. Well, maybe we can take a look at this at the end of LC's turn, so that he also gets his 4 culture added, so that all of the players had the same amount of production, but I still have the most culture. I have 9 civil actions, so I definitely, even though I don't have the most resource production, have quite a strong economy, especially because I have a lot of science saved up. And then ST and Wawrzyniec have also decent economies, but Wawrzyniec doesn't have a lot of resources. ST has 0 culture production, so I was thinking that at this point I have quite a nice position. And also, as you can see this turn, I will go for the military theory, making me even more safe for the military. Also, after the military theory, I really want to take the engineering genius, and yeah, then my first idea was to take the space flight and then just develop the military theory to get a little bit stronger and just have spent this civil action already. But the spaceflight would be a very nice wonder for me. Maybe it would be in the mid or even high 20s at the end. So definitely a very solid wonder. If I don't take it, ST for example could go for it, who also has very solid science production and can maybe make it a very fine wonder at the end. So that was my first idea. However, I think I have to be a little bit careful here because ST has definitely some military potential. Wawrzyniec not really. I think he rather has to be careful at this point. But if he gets a lot of yellow cards or maybe in other ways get some resources, and then with the Great Wall he also could potentially be threatening. But especially ST, if he gets a little bit of additional resources, maybe the rockets, air forces, has a strong H3 tactic, he can definitely go for a lot of strength. And when I go for the space flight, I can maybe be very fine with defending myself if I develop the military theory and if I get a copy of Air Force. However, if I don't get a copy of Air Force, then I think with only being stuck on defensive army, with one copy of modern infantry already be gone, and me not knowing if I can easily copy the positional army at some point, especially because it is also a bit costly to upgrade all of those swordsmen to modern infantry. Without Air Forces, things could definitely get a bit tricky for me, and I think at this point I'm in a position that is very nice and where I maybe should play against the outs of my opponents or against those ways how the game could maybe go in a bad direction for me. And I think me missing out on Air Forces and SD having the necessary tools to go for a big war could be one of those things, and instead of the space flight I actually made the decision to go for the Manhattan Project. The engineering genius gives me 5, potentially even 6 resources with the Silk Road, and then with having this card in hand, the Manhattan Project is just a relatively cheap way that doesn't require any population to give me 13 additional strength, and can maybe make me just a bit more threatening if I miss out on Air Forces, and even if I should get Air Forces, it could still be nice to have, but it probably will score me around 20 or even a bit more, less culture than the space flight. So if the game remains relatively peaceful, if ST maybe gets the space flight now, maybe it could also potentially backfire in that regard, but I have a culture lead, and I think if the game remains peaceful, even when I then have the Manhattan Project, I still think I'm in a good position. And if the game gets military heavy and I miss out on Air Force, I think it could be very important to have the Manhattan Project lying around. And while if the game is peaceful, while then maybe having the space flight could be better. At least I could maybe have the option to, for example, finish the Manhattan Project at the next turn, and then I'm open again to go for the Red Cross, which could potentially be an interesting wonder if I just maybe save up a little bit of food over the next 1 or 2 turns. So are still ways how I can maybe also go for some culture with now going for the Manhattan Project, and so I think that is maybe the better decision in this position than going for the space flight, just because I thought I have already a strong position and I should now just make sure that I cannot be surprised by any big wars. And then, as said, with my last civil action, I will just develop the military theory, get a little bit stronger, making sure that I don't lose to the border conflict, which could potentially happen. If I stay 29 strength, I would be the weakest after my turn. There could, I think, also be an event like Crusade still be in the deck, so I think that is a very logical last civil action. And I don't go for another coal upgrade, but I think at that point it's very late anyway. I don't go for an organized religion, which would score me additional points with Mandela, but I think all of those things are not really necessary. There's no rebellion coming, and I have to be a little bit careful here with SD potentially having some strong military potential. I do draw some cards. The impact of progress could be very interesting. I have the architecture in hand, and with that it is already quite good. ST Seeds, the developed territory is revealed. I have 1 surplus swordsman at the moment. An additional yellow token could be nice to have with Mandela. So maybe I don't really need a territory. Maybe at the end I could regret having spent a swordsman, but I thought sending 1 swordsman away is fine for that, and I will still stay at 31 strength at least. And so at the end I am able to win this territory. And SD will get the second copy of Air Force, meaning that maybe he again gets his pieces of the puzzle that he needs to maybe go for a big war. He doesn't have rockets yet. Who knows if he has an H3 tactic? Also, him investing into another cavalryman is maybe an indicator that he doesn't have something like modern army. On the other hand, he also kind of needs to get out of corruption. He gets the revolutionary idea, and of course also 2 classic armies with 2 air forces can be quite threatening. Wawrzyniec seeds and opens the border conflict. ST gets 3 additional resources from there. LC has to destroy something at his turn, which is quite a bit annoying for him because he hasn't any cheap stuff any longer. Maybe he has to lose an irrigation farm or something like this. Wawrzyniec this turn will still go for the coal, which is late, but with those sufficient upgrades, basically he invests 2 resources, but then the mine immediately scores 2 resources more. Maybe there's even an event like economic progress coming. It might help for impact. And the science is really no limiting factor at all for him, so I think it makes definitely sense to go for those resource upgrades. Those will still net him some nice resource over the course of the game. He then will also develop the modern infantry, also goes for the civil service, scoring a lot of culture with Einstein at his turn, and then takes the revolutionary idea because of course he doesn't have enough science lying around at the moment. But no, then he can get even more Einstein activations. LC offers the military alliance towards Wawrzyniec, making him the strongest, which could potentially benefit him from the events. Also, I am now the weakest, which could be a bit annoying. And then LC will play the revolutionary deal and will actually go for computers. Decided to lose a lab to the border conflict. Definitely costly for him and annoying, but at least he will improve his economy by a little bit, maybe prepare himself for impacts, while also leaving himself in a position where he can go for one air force, and together with Dimitri Castle, that should make him safe enough, at least for now. Then at my turn I could already see the impact of progress into the deck, but I am the weakest, and after my turn I will actually be the strongest, and with that I made a decision to delay seeding here. I have only 1 impact in hand. Who knows if I draw more useful ones. I mean, there might be some where I'm nicely prepared for, but no, I just didn't want to take the risk of getting hit by a strength event here. And as you can see, I take the engineering and I take the pro sports. Both of those cards I maybe don't necessarily need, because I have architecture in hand and I have the organized religions as a happy face solution, but I still think both of those cards have valid arguments to take them here, especially the bro sports, because again, SD has now gotten the air forces and there's only 1 copy left. If Wawrzyniec gets those air forces, I am without air forces, and I definitely have to be careful about all of those things. And then the bro sports is just another way how I can get some cheap strength going, especially with the urban growth that I also really want to take. It's basically 1 free bro spot, 4 additional strength, and also of course those bro spots are very nice for some different impacts. And so I really wanted to have the pro spots available, and then the engineering has 2 purposes. First of all, it makes those pro spots even cheaper, potentially saving me 1, 2, or maybe even 3 resources, and I might be in a position where I could need every single resource in order to threaten a little bit more strength to just make sure that I am not the target of a war at the end. And so that is the one reason. The other reason, I have the impact of progress in hand, and if I don't take the engineering, it's quite likely that either ST or Wawrzyniec will go for the engineering, so I basically get 2 additional culture for the impact myself and remove 6 additional culture maybe for this impact from my opponents. Of course, maybe they will get other blue technologies instead, but both of them have enough science that I could relatively easily invest into the engineering and another blue technology. So those are the 2 reasons for the engineering. And then I thought about if I maybe want to develop engineering and the pro sports, maybe build 1 pro sport already, but then I just didn't know what to do with my last civil actions. I could of course increase my population, but I thought maybe it could be nice to save it up a little for potential Red Cross, and also I at the end thought it is maybe not bad to just finish the Manhattan project. That also means that I can build the next pro sports with the urban growth that I've just taken, and so I made a decision to develop the engineering, and now I have to make a decision how I want to finish the Manhattan project. And one option is to either just build it in 3 steps. That could mean that I can use the engineering genius for 6 resources with the Silk Road, or I can maybe use the engineering genius only for 4 resources, but then I could play the reserves, saving me 1 civil action that I maybe want to spend at some point anyway, and also I then get at least a Silk Road bonus also with the reserves. Or I mean, I would get it with the engineering genius. And at the next turn, it might be the case, the urban growth I can only use for 4 resources anyway, so I might then get 1 additional resource. If I use the engineering genius now with the Silk Road bonus, I might still be able to get the Silk Road bonus out of the reserves, and the urban growth doesn't give me the Silk Road bonus anyway. So the engineering genius, with using it on the 6 resource step, basically gives me 2 additional resources. And I have a lot of civil actions, and with that I thought, again, it might be more important to get as much resource as I can if I don't get a lot of yellow cards especially, then it could be very important to have as many resources possible, and those resources are maybe more valuable than the additional civil actions. Of course, then I didn't necessarily need to develop the engineering, but at the next turn I want to go for pro sports anyway, and so I just made a decision to already develop the engineering, but I could have also just developed the pro sports, could have also maybe use the frugality, so I thought, as I said, maybe saving up some food for the Red Cross could be nice. And one argument to finish the Manhattan project is also that I can actually take the Red Cross, which otherwise of course would not be possible. Now I have 12 food saved up with not using the reserves. I could even play it for food, even though in order to be able to do this and finish the Red Cross would have to be available for very cheap for me, and also it would be my whole turn, and probably I would have to prepare myself for defense. But for now the Manhattan project makes it that I'm the strongest, and and also makes it that I could take the Red Cross if I don't have maybe anything else to do. I keep one war, the impact of progress. I will draw some more impacts, the impact of industry, which is not really the greatest one, but maybe at least one that could be seedable. ST will go for the Air Forces this turn, builds one, is now at 49 strength, plays the revolutionary idea, will go for Bill Gates. The additional resource will be very helpful for him, actually allowing him to go for one cavalryman and one Air Force at the next turn, and with the patriotism he can even go for potentially more. So he is definitely looking for war, doesn't invest into culture production at all, has not drawn some decent amount of cards especially, or no, has drawn some nice cards, and with that is looking threatening, and I have to be again very careful at my next turn, especially now that the last copy of Air Force is taken away. I was a bit worried if maybe things could get in the wrong direction, but I was also very happy that I made the decision to go for the Manhattan project instead of taking the space flight, and so hopefully I can still threaten a decent amount of strength. Wawrzyniec takes the rockets in addition to the Air Forces, takes the reserves, also wants to get as many resources as possible, and then goes for some upgrades from swordsman to modern infantry, develops the rockets already this turn, copies to the positional army tactic, and the next turn can go for one Air Force, and maybe even more. Then LC will offer the scientific cooperation to SD. I think that has one purpose for him, because now he can now he can develop the Air Force without having to play the revolutionary idea, and that opens up some new possibilities for his turn, because now he can take the military build-up while still building one Air Force and taking the modern infantry. Taking the modern infantry is maybe not that important, but now he just makes sure that I can go for the positional army. I missed out on Air Forces, so he is taking a nice option away from me, how I could maybe threaten more defense, and and still can take also the military build-up. So I think that that's the reason why I offered a pact. ST at his turn will maybe only develop one technology anyway, because he maybe, if he indeed should go for war, doesn't have that many actions available anyway. And so LLC is now at 46 strength, the second strongest, but he doesn't have enough military actions and also not enough resources to build another positional army. Maybe he has entrenchments, and then he could go for another entrenchments tactic, but the Imechi Castle might help him a little bit, but if ST can go for a bit more strength, or is willing to go for more strength than one cavalryman and one Air Force, then he should be able to win a war against LC, unless of course there might be some help from the events. Now it is my turn, and of course I also have to be very careful again, and just look for a solution where I can threaten as much strength as possible, so that hopefully I won't be the target of a war. Also this turn I'm not the weakest, and I have now another seedable impact. I will get one more draw, so this turn I wanted to start seeding impacts and seeded the impact of progress into the deck. And as you can see, there is actually the economic progress. Wawrzyniec, who was very low in resource production for quite a while, gets now 8 additional resource out of this, so going for those coal mines definitely paid off for him, and also my one coal mine definitely paid off with giving me another additional production this turn. And those additional resources are helpful for me to threaten even more defense, so I was happy to see this revealed. Of course also ST gets more resources, and also all the other players who can defend, but ST, for him the limiting factor might now also just be military actions and population rather than resource. He had enough resource to build a cavalryman, Air Force, and even a little bit more anyway, so for him, at least for the war that he might be going for, it's not that important. Then this turn I will go for the bro spots in order to make use of the Silk Road. I will first play the reserves 2 for resources, and then use the urban growth, because that can't give me more than 4 resources anyway. I will build 1 cannon, which is very important, because that allows me to threaten to build 2 more armies. Now I have 5 military actions, and I can build 4 more swordsmen, 1 more cannon, going for 2 more armies. And with my last civil actions, I then took the urban growth, took the reserves, and used the frugality. And yeah, so all of those things could be very important, because with each yellow card allows me to go for more strength. For example, the reserves will allow me to go for an additional bro sports, which threatens some additional strength. And also using the frugality, of course, I could have maybe taken a card or something, but in order to threaten to go for 2 more armies and 2 more bro sports, I need to increase my population already this turn, otherwise I don't have enough civil actions to achieve all of that at the next turn. But now I, if I remember it correctly, can threaten to go for 2 bro sports. I mean, I have 16 plus 9 from the Silk Road, 25 resources available, and building 2 more armies cost me 12 resources for the 12 swordsmen, 17, and then I have 8 left, which is just enough to go for 2 bro sports. And if I remember it correctly, then I also have just enough civil actions now, so that is the amount of strength that I can threaten. That would be another 12 from the tactic, 8 from the swordsman, it's 20, 3 from the cannon, 23, another 8 is 31, so I would be at 82 if I just didn't miscalculate. And ST, if he goes for 2 more classic armies, would be at plus 16, plus 21, plus 24. So with that he would have not more strength, but he can go for even more, either for example with going for the fundamentalism. I even very shortly thought about denying that instead of taking the reserves, because that might give him 6 additional strength, but that would have been a blunder, because of course he has other ways to get more strength, for example with going for tanks. And yeah, I was hoping that with threatening all of this, with taking all of those yellow cards, and yeah, also with at a turn before, just having made sure that I can have a lot of ways to get alternative ways to get more strength and to have as many resources available as possible. I was hoping that I can threaten enough strength, and even if my opponent should be somehow able to slightly win a war, I have that big of a culture lead that hopefully that also will prevent them from going for war, because they maybe don't have that much hope with overtaking me with a war anyway. So that was my turn, and there is the red cross coming down the row, but this turn I definitely can't grab it. I have to be concerned about the military, but who knows, if it is still available at my next turn, I can go for it, but I have a relatively big culture lead anyway. I do draw some more cards. The impact of government could be suitable. Impact of technology is fine as well, but it's a lot better for Wawrzyniec. ST will indeed go for war, and he will choose LC as the target, and then ST will not go for the fundamentalism, goes for 1 air force, goes for the tanks, for some upgrades, is now at 79 strength, will still take the fundamentalism, interestingly, maybe to take it away as an option to go for more strength for his opponents. And Wawrzyniec, interestingly, also will go for war. He has gotten the additional resource from the economic progress, and with those resources he can now go for the military theory and can go for another rocket, 2 upgrades to modern infantry, another cannon, is now at 73 strength, really makes nice use out of the Great Wall, and gets a total of 10 strength out of his wonders, also takes the democracy. And now let's see how nicely Elsie can defend, even or if he maybe decides to resign if he doesn't see a nice way out for him. And at this point he makes the decision to resign, which is, I think, good for me and also for Wawrzyniec. Bad for Esti. Here I would have probably gotten the most culture out of the war, depending on how Elsie would have defended with Demichi Castle. But at this point Elsie would lose some culture to both of his opponents. There are definitely a lot of impacts where he would score badly in, and so he makes the decision that at this point he doesn't see any chance for him any longer and makes the decision to resign. And that means that at my turn, now I think things are looking really good for me. I have a big culture lead, the game will end now, there's no further turn, and there's even the red cross available, so I think at this turn, or at this point, there's not really any way how I could lose this game. First of all, I will cede actually the impact of industry, because I will go for 1 more upgrade this turn anyway, and then it's better for me than the impact of government. The politics of strength is revealed, which will give some additional culture to ST. I will lose some culture, but it's not too bad. I will go for the red cross after finishing it. I have 2 civil actions left. I will actually build 1 organized religion, could have also built 1 pro sports. That would give me more points for an impact of competition. But the organized religion gives me 1 additional culture reduction. Pro sports also gives 1 additional point for the impact of architecture. So yeah, maybe I could have gone for the additional bro sports, because the strength also makes me a little bit more threatening against an aggression from one of my opponents. I can't defend against one anyway, but maybe it could potentially make the difference between them going for one or not. So maybe I could go for the bro sports, but to be honest, at this turn I also didn't put too much thought into the moves, because I think at this point there are, especially with also some nice impacts like the impact of progress in there should be no way how I will not win this game. Of course, potentially if there's a tiebreaker at the end, it could still be nice to win with as much culture as possible, but I just went for 1 more coal upgrade, and then, as I can't defend against an aggression anyway, I decided to improve my impact of competition by a little bit with removing those swordsmen to cannons. Maybe I should have kept more strength, so that at least my opponents have to consider what if I can defend against an aggression, but ST has lots of strength maybe, and maybe needs a little bit of luck or some nice aggressions in order to finish before Wawrzyniec. So he might try 1 anyway, and Wawrzyniec has only 2 cards in hand, so he doesn't have a lot of things to choose from anyway, might also try 1 anyway. And so at the end I just decided to go for the additional culture from the organized religion, and then just remove a bit of strength in order to improve my impact of competition. Then it is ST's turn. He will go for an armed intervention, stealing 7 culture from me, will then go for 1 movie. Also takes the pro sports and the satellites away from Wawrzyniec. And Wawrzyniec will go for a plundered, that helps him but doesn't really hurt me a lot. He has now 14 resource, could even just take and finish the internet for 13 points, and could also still develop the democracy, but it would still cost him some culture from Einstein, and maybe also some preparation for impacts. As we will see at his turn, he will actually go for some more military, which could definitely be an indicator for either impact of strength and or impact of competition. He's even willing to destroy both labs. Maybe his knowledge about impact of science, but then he probably would have seeded it, so maybe it's just not expecting that this impact is in there, with him having had a lead in this impact for the most time, and then it's the last turn from him, and we can take a look at the final culture before the impacts, and as you can see I have a very big lead. I have a nice impact of progress, so I hopefully should be able to win this game, but it might be close between ST and Wawrzyniec. ST will still get the Bill Gates bonus, is a little bit behind, but if he has maybe the right impacts, there could maybe be some hope for him. And the first impact is the impact of progress. That one is better for Wawrzyniec than for ST, so ST has to catch up even more culture now. Then there is the impact of industry, where ST at least catches up by a little bit. Then there are 2 unknown impacts for me. The impact of happiness gives me plus 16. Wawrzyniec only plus 8, so ST is able to catch up a little bit. He would need another strong impact by now, but as expected, after Wawrzyniec destroyed that much to go for strength, there is indeed the impact of strength, which gives Wawrzyniec 7 points against ST, and with that, even with the Bill Gates bonus, Wawrzyniec finishes at the 2nd position, and ST finishes at the 3rd position. Yeah. And with that, I at the end was able to win this game, which of course I'm very happy about. I think that game just went very smoothly for me. I got the medieval army tactic very early, which wasn't maybe even that impactful, because I didn't even play it at the end, but it was very nice to have it early on. And then I think I just had a nice foundation with having all of those wonders, passively scoring me some culture, giving me economical benefits, allowing me to go for some strong upgrades in Age 2. Thanks to Genghis Khan, I had some nice amount of strength, also didn't manage to keep up in culture, even maybe generate a little bit of a lead. And then I think going for Maria Theresa was also very nice, worked out even better than I expected with the good harvest coming, and she gave me a lot of value. And then even though the coal was a little bit late, I just could use a lot of yellow cards with the Silk Road, had some additional resources from Maria Theresa, had the architecture, even the engineering at the end, and with that, even though I didn't have the most resource production, still managed to do some nice stuff. And then I was a little bit worried at a point when I missed out on the Air Forces, or didn't know if I get the Air Forces and how many yellow cards I will get in order to threaten a lot of strength. But thanks to the Manhattan project, I think that was an important decision, and going for those cheap pro spots, I at the end managed to threaten enough strength so that I wasn't a target of a war, and with that I was able to win this game at the end. Yeah, and with the second game finished, there are now at least 2 games finished, and it is maybe worth it to at least take a quick look at the standings. And so far I am very happy about my start. As you can see, I have 2 games finished now with the first and the second position, making it that I have 9 points at the moment. Elsie, who won the first game, has now lost the next game, which is maybe also nice, because for me ideally it's best if maybe there's not one opponent who scores a lot of points. So Elsie is now the second position with 6 points. Wawrzyniec has 4 points. ST had the worst start, is now at 1 point, but at this point there are still 6 games to come, so there can still everything can happen. All players still have chances, but I think I have now a nice foundation. Also, as you can see, the next games are very shortly about to finish, so that will be very exciting to see how those next games will go, if I manage to will keep my lead, or if one of my opponents will be able to overtake me. Yeah. So I'm definitely happy about that so far, and then I hope it was an interesting video for you, and thanks for watching, and then see you next time.